being a coach, we need to have a varied experience and competencies to deal with different situations. Whenever we are actually trying to do some kind of a coaching assignment, we often approach our work with the right intent. But sometimes we may apply practices or solutions which may go wrong, and they may result in an undesirable results. And these are what we actually call as anti-patterns. We don't intend, but they happen. So coaching opportunities or learning moments happen when these interactions happen. And today we are going to have the speakers talk about some anti-patterns which can happen in these interactions. So we have divided this section into the talk into 4 sections. We are dividing it into team coaching, one-on-one coaching, executive or leadership coaching, and self-coaching. So with that said, I would bring up the first theme for team coaching. Whenever we talk about a coaching assignment or a transformation in the company, in an organization, it is all revolving around how do we bring the teams up to the speed and get into the transformation journey, help them to sail across with success. With that said, I would like to invite Nivati to share what are the anti-patterns, any of the anti-patterns he has experienced in his journey as a coach, and share some kind of solutions he has thought about how to face them or handle them. Over to you, Nivati.
Yeah, thank you, Nagini. So, one of the major behaviors that we exhibit, I wouldn't call them anti-patterns, just more influenced by the situation or that particular environment. One that I often have seen and experienced is we preach a lot of things to the teams that we are working with, right? We say you have to be agile, you need to be flexible, you need to have growth mindset, everything that is required, and we have a big checklist that we also take to them to say, yes, this is something we want you to embark on. We talk about culture, building the right mindset, all those things, but we don't essentially see ourselves role modeling that behavior. The moment they come and say, okay, I have a feedback for you, probably this is not something that will work for us, suddenly our own the egos or our own experiences, our own limiting beliefs start showing up, and we start saying, no, this is something I have done probably for last 10 years or 15 years, even right from when Agile started, and this is something which has to be done this way. So not role modeling the behaviors that we ask the teams to exhibit consistently, and not showing that flexibility or adaptability ourselves is one of the biggest, I would not say biggest, one of the most prevalent and visible behaviors that we see, and that is something which then starkly pushes back our credibility within the team that we are working with, right? And also the environment that we are working with. Then how do you really look at this, right? So looking for consistent feedback is one thing. Ask the team that you are working with how well they are looking at you as a coach, how flexible you are, how adaptable you are. That is definitely one of the ways you can get that awareness built up. Second is about reflecting on how we are showing up in our conversations when we meet the teams across the table. So probably journaling is another element, definitely, which I practice quite a bit on day-to-day basis. Every day, go back and at least at the end of the day, spend 15 minutes. Okay, how did I show up in the conversations that I had with my teams today? And what are the right behaviors I exhibited? What are the things that possibly I could be better, right? Or I need to let go or unlearn, which is my passion again, right? So that is something I would strongly recommend to bring that consciousness and awareness. I'm pretty sure that none of us, at least not me, I'm not a perfect human being, right? So I have my imperfections, but how do I, keep getting that awareness and consciousness on a day-to-day basis, or even while you are in the conversation? It's about fastening that feedback loop that we always prescribe or preach to people. So my question to all of us is, what is your pace of your feedback loop? How fast are you giving feedback to yourself about your own behaviors when you are in that coaching conversation? Over to you, Sanjay.
Hey, thanks, Nivati, for great start on this. Right now, I wanted to add to this conversation about the team coaching, and one other thing, kind of, which I notice, and it is a human tendency, right? And coaches are humans, right? So we all kind of align to certain power centers within the team, right? And then this happens because we are humans, right? I think we subconsciously kind of give into our own tendencies and biases, right? So we all want to be liked, and we all like to build coalition within the teams which help us achieve our goals, right? But we always have to be careful, right, that some of these tendencies do not become counterproductive, which is kind of an anti-pattern, or they harm our bigger objective. Whenever we're talking about the team coaching, I think the core focus is about developing the team into self-organized team that is trusting each other and respecting each other, right? But if we give into a power center, then we are creating kind of a division within the team, right? Now, coach's position is kind of a sacred position, right? It is always towards the higher purpose, right? So that is what probably is needed also, right? So if you take a side or support someone because that person is having some power because of some designation or some other means, that can give a kind of short-term or immediate rewards, but it would be detrimental in a long run, right? Because you would kind of lose the trust of the wider team, and your job of helping them, transforming them, will become tougher, right? So aligning to kind of power center within the team is another anti-pattern which I notice, right? But then how do you avoid it? Again, there is no magic formula, as Nivarti mentioned also, right? So one thing which he used about a keyword, like how do you show up, right? So that is key, right? So always err on the side of being unbiased, right? So sometimes, even at the risk of annoying or displeasing those power centers, right? But in a wider scheme of the world, you will gain respect, and your job will become easier that way, right? So that's how I see that anti-pattern, and then how you could probably avoid it as well, right? And then
Thank you,
I
Sanjay.
give it to Anu. Thank you.
Yeah, Anu, just a minute. All the attendees, please feel free to put your questions on the chat window while we are having these discussions, so that you will not lose the chance of asking the question at the end of the session, please. Anu, over to you.
Thank you so much, Nagini. Sanjay spoke about power centers. Nivarti spoke about checklists. The next anti-pattern I'll speak about is actually, as a coach, sometimes we don't challenge the status quo and we focus on completing the checklist, right? So, in my experience, I had been to this very high-performing team, the so-called high-performing team, and I saw that the Scrum Master was actually not challenging the team itself. And I was amazed. I was like, why is the Scrum Master not challenging? Why is that people are not opening up in the retrospective events? The Scrum Master had an easy answer. He said that, Anu, do you know that this has been categorized as the high performing team? I've got 5 teams to code, and this is the most high performing team. And I asked for his definition, obviously, right? And he showed me a checklist. Look here, Anu. They actually attend all the retrospectives. They are able to achieve the sprint goals. They are able to do this. What else do you need? Fantastic. Then the next thing is obviously you want to be part of that conversation to understand how a high performing team functions. I went inside, and during the retrospective sessions, I see that everybody is silent. And the retrospective event just finishes off in 15 minutes. I thought, wow, great. I attended the planning meeting, and in the planning meeting, I see that only 2 people are dominating all the conversations, and the rest of them are just following the orders. These 2 people are the senior most people, so-called knowledgeable people. They are the ones who were holding the power center in that team, right? So can we actually see that pattern there? The so-called high-performing team was actually not so high-performing team when it comes to mentoring the team members itself, organizing, self-organizing, whatever Sanjay spoke about. There were so many anti-patterns within the team that was not surfacing out. In order to avoid these anti-patterns, a coach, most importantly, should observe. That's the key skill for a coach to possess. You observe what is happening. You proactively ask questions. Sanjay, what about your views? Nivarti, what about your views? And then elicit such kind of responses. Ask open-ended questions so that people can actually speak up. And I think if time permits, because team coaching, as coaches, most of us do team coaching, I would want to cover one other anti-pattern as well. That's the metrics, right? The stakeholders or we as coaches want to define the metrics, and everybody loves metrics. Who does not like metrics in this team, by the way? Anyone there? I don't see any hands up there, right? So in one of the teams, I've actually seen that 28 Jira reports were getting generated. What? Are you asking me how? I'll actually refer you to that team. You can go and check that list. But it was 28. And those 28 reports were only leading to micromanagement. Do you think the team will be happy? The team will be very highly performing? Not at all. On the other end, I've actually seen teams who define vanity metrics. For those of you who don't know vanity metrics, they're just statistics which look really, really spectacular on the surface, but they don't add any value at all. For example, all of us like LinkedIn posts, and all of us would want to see how many likes we have got. Does it really add value? Promotional events. Directly, if you don't take any action items on the number of people who have attended the promotional event, the number itself may or may not add value. Those are vanity metrics, right? So in order to avoid both the scenarios, like, having too many metrics or having too little metrics, or not having vanity metrics, you actually have a conversation with the stakeholders and what kind of metrics should be defined, why it should be defined, what's the purpose of defining those metrics. Are they really, really actionable metrics, or just for the sake of metrics, for the flashy reports to be generated for the Scrum Master to have some work? So ask those kind of questions so that you encourage the stakeholders and lead them to continuous improvement. And and all of us would have heard about it, right? Measuring what matters and then taking actions, and actions from the insights is the key.
Thank you,
Over
Anu.
to you, Nagini.
Nivati, before we go to the next theme, I would request you to conclude this and then jump into the next theme.
Yeah, wonderful. I think thanks Anu and Sanjay. I know this is not a exhaustive, kind of list we are talking about, but the key, message that we wanted to give is when we are trying to work with teams, are we really focused on being inclusive, trying to get all voices heard rather than just, aligning ourselves to be seen as successful? That is one of the messages, definitely. And second, are you really trying to go by a checklist that we have created, or are we really looking to transform and build the right mindset within the teams that we are interacting with? And while we are doing it, are we really exhibiting the right mindset ourselves, and are we reflecting on that element to be able to role model and being looked upon as the person to emulate in terms of the behaviors that we exhibit on day-to-day basis? So that is the key if you really want to build our credibility and influence and inspire the teams to be consistently on that transformation journey, because we're not looking at a destination, we are looking to help them continuously evolve. So that would be our message on this particular theme of team coaching and the so-called anti-patterns.
Thank you, Nivati. So the next theme we have is a one-on-one coaching. Uh, when we are talking about agile transformation, as all of us have heard the speakers give us anti-patterns, we see some people are lagging, or some people are happy with the coaching and other things. And we always find out there is that one or two people who require that special attention and a one-on-one coaching. In that aspects, we always have a number of anti-patterns again as a coach to avoid when we are trying to do this one-on-one coaching with individuals at the individual level. I would invite Anu for starting this conversation on the anti-patterns in one-on-one coaching. Over to you, Anu.
Thanks, Nagini. The biggest anti-pattern in a one-on-one coaching, which I feel, is driving our own agenda as coaches, right? Early on in my career, so it has happened to me as well. So, early on in my career, a coach was sent to me, and this manager told me very clearly, Anu, he is not attending the retrospective meetings, and I want you to coach him in such a way that from tomorrow onwards, he will actually attend all the events. Okay, the objective was very well defined. And then he comes to me, what am I doing as a coach? I'm like, okay, XYZ, why are you not attending the events? I would recommend you to attend the events because this event has got these many advantages. This will not only help you, but it will help your team as well. It will help your team to take to the next level. It will help the organization. And I went on rambling. And then there came a point when the coach said, Anu, do you really know why I am not attending the events? That I never expected the coach to ask me this question. And that's when I realized I was driving my agenda, and my agenda was given by my stakeholder. I was not actually looking at what was the coach's problem. How can I help coach to realistically achieve his own actions? Then when I actually tried to probe more, it might have been on reflection, obviously, I started asking him open-ended questions. The kind of questions I asked was, okay, is there a problem with the environment? Are you thinking that you have already attended the retrospectives and no actions being taken? Or do you think it's like just a time pass? Then I started thinking about, what about the 12-month model? Where is the team currently in? They might just be in the forming stages, right? They have not built that kind of trust. They don't want to open up. They don't want to actually come and talk to people. What about the personality traits? This person might be very, very reserved, very introvert, and he might not open up in a retrospective meeting, and hence he thinks that his input may not be valid at all. After after reflection, I started asking open-ended questions. I started using the GROW model. I'm sure most of you know about the GROW model, where we talk about what's actually the reality, what are the options, what's the way forward, etc. And then, the coachee actually opened up, and he, in fact, did not speak about any of that, whatever I spoke to you just now. He spoke about a personal problem he had. And he told me, you know what, Anu? I actually have already told my manager that within a month's time, my personal problems will get handled and I'll start attending. But the manager wants me to attend from today, and that's not possible. Right? So sometimes, without even knowing what we are coaching, we are driving our own agendas as a coach, and that's one of the biggest anti-pattern. I've learned this very early on in my career, for which I'm thankful about. The next anti-pattern is actually, having our own biases, perceptions, beliefs, right? Many of us have that previous experiences. In one of the this thing, they were talking about value stream mapping, and they said that the production support team, the 2 or 3 guys who were actually supporting the production environment, they should now become part and parcel of the delivery, the development team itself. But this coach, who was actually reporting to me as well, being a senior coach, so this coach was like, you know what, this one will never work. I've actually seen this not working in my previous organization. I'm like, I told you are actually telling him that it will not work. Each team member, each situation or the conditions, the environments where we are operating in are all different, right? So that's a bias from which the coach was coming in, where he said that it has not worked in the earlier context and it will not work here as well. The easiest way to maneuver these kind of situations is that, again, ask open-ended questions. And when you are asking open-ended questions, because you know that there are challenges, ask questions like, how would you actually overcome if there are certain challenges, or what kind of challenges do you foresee in these kind of scenarios? And also, he can, because he has already gone through, and hopefully, that team is within the same organization, he can also give a reference for this lead to go and talk to that lead to figure out where things have gone wrong, so that they can learn from each other. Right? So this is one of the other anti-patterns which I have seen.
Thank you, Anu. Sanjay, would you like to pitch in any anti-patterns you have faced in one-on-one coaching?
One-on-one coaching, right? So yeah, thanks Anu for great start, right? And Anu talked about the biases which we all succumb to, and our own trainings, our own previous experiences, they lead to certain anti-patterns, right? So one anti-pattern which I want to talk about is that sometimes as a coaches, and we work with a lot of individuals in one-on-one, right? You can work with the Scrum Masters in teaching them and helping them with certain things, or with the product owners, or any other role also, right? But then we all have that evolutionary trait also, that we want to feel good about ourselves, right? It's like instant gratification, right? Now, if we have an expertise in certain things, what happens is, okay, we take that ownership of other people's actions also, right? So sometimes coaches do that. It could be a tyranny of urgency also, that okay, there is something urgent the team wants to do, and then coaches say that, okay, I know how to do it, or I'm more than an expert on this one, let me do that, right? Now this could be an anti-pattern, right? Because this could give you some early results, but in a long term it can harm the team, right? So as a coach, showing that the other person how to do it is fine. You're teaching them. right? But when you take responsibility of their work, it is a counterproductive, right? Because it slows down their learning, right? And it creates dependency on you for that kind of work, right? Which is not a desirable outcome, right? So always bring the clarity that you can teach to them, you can show them how to do that, and you are available to help them, but do not take the ownership of their work, right? And so how do you avoid it? I mean, that's the good practice about avoiding it also, but also very, very important to distinguish between that instant gratification and delayed gratification, right? So it's very important that you do not succumb to that instant gratification for yourself, right? I mean, you're generally there for the bigger purpose, for developing those individuals for long term, right? Not short term delivering their outputs or delivering their outcome, right? So that is how I see that anti-pattern of taking someone else's actions that in the long term is counterproductive, right? And I'll hand it over to Nivarti to add to this conversation. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. So one of the famous statements we hear is this person is not coachable, or this person is a fixed mindset, right? So we easily brand people into being not coachable or being very rigid in their approach to change that we are trying to bring in, and that that's one of the things at least I get to hear a lot. That, hey Nivarti, I've gotten to this team and there is one person I'm really struggling, and not that person is not coachable. I don't think that person fits the team, fits the organization. There are a lot of statements that come through, and that's something which we normally hear when we are working with larger teams and the context of those teams. So what influences this kind of thought process, right? One could be that we are looking to get faster results as coaches. We want to finish transforming that team and probably move to the other team. So we want everybody to reciprocate the pace of change that we as coaches want to bring into the system, into that team, right? And when we face that resistance, we are kind of pushed back to say, okay, is my, and to Anu's point, is my agenda of completing the transformation of this team in 3 months is getting stuck. Now I have to spend more time with this person, right? To be able to help them move forward. So that is one element. Second, our own biases of looking at and understanding who that person is, right? So rather than looking to understand what their preferences are, what is their way of transforming and their way of understanding the change and their way of looking at the change, we look at our own biases driving our understanding of their personality, of who they are, right? So that is another definite reason which makes us pass them off, saying, okay, these people are not coachable. The question I look at usually and ask is, what makes you think possibly that you are the right coach for this person? How many of us really are looking inward to say, am I the right person to coach this person, right? So that's a question we need to ask, because coaching is all about partnering with people, which means you are there to develop trust between you and your coachee. So is there a question mark on our ability to develop that trust? Because they are where they are, we are going to them to transform. That means the onus for developing that trust is on us as coaches, right? And what makes them not come forward to shake hand and make that a mutual relationship of trust to be built is to be probably seen as you being a management's representative, right? That could be one of the reasons they don't want to come forward and be extending their hands in partnering. That could be one of the reasons. Second, what behaviors are you exhibiting so that they are feeling secure enough to open up their own personality in front of you, right? So that is another element. So that means, irrespective of what reasons they have, if you are not forthcoming to go ahead and extend yourself and put yourself in their shoes to understand what is their concern at that point of time, what constraints they are operating in, and what is preventing them from changing. Right, so that is the major reason that we need to look at. So one of the instances, one of the coaches came and said, I'm really struggling with this person and I'm not absolutely able to move forward with that person at this point in time, and I'm thinking about talking to the manager to say, how do we handle this, right? So probably we may have to move that person to another team, get them get some upskilling done and so on. So I said, okay, can we try some other coach to go and have a conversation? And initially that coach was resistant, saying, so are you doubting my capability to coach? I said, no, that is not the thing. Can we at least have a conversation, with the other coach and see if there is a change? What is our intent here? Not to question your capability. Our intent is to help that person move forward if we can. So if the focus is that person, why not have this conversation? And he finally relented, saying, okay, do what you want. Right. So that was the statement. So we had another coach going and having a conversation. And the first conversation they had, that person came up and said that, okay, I am having a lot of problems at my personal level and I'm trying to concentrate on that. I'm not getting any support from my team or my leadership to help me to focus on my personal problems so that I can concentrate on get rid of that and then look at this change. Right? Now, nobody asked him a question in the first place to say, why is this resistance? Why are you not trying to change? What is that we can do? What is the issue you actually have? We are just passing that off for that person off, saying this person is not participating in the change itself, right? And he was the most positive person after we facilitated that conversation and also made the team aware that yes, this person is struggling with this. What can we do as a team to support him to overcome the current issues they have, right? So that also showed that the team itself is lacking trust amongst themselves. So there are a lot of patterns that were visible in team's behavior when you start being observant, when you start having the conversations in the right environment. So to cut the story short, in many conversations when you see that a person is not coachable, I would rather question myself to first check whether I am the right coach for that person, right? Before passing off saying this person is not coachable.
Yeah. Thank you, Nivati. So, Anu, would you like to conclude this theme with your remarks?
Sure, Nagini. So, in one-on-one coaching, what is important is, or in all coaching, trust is important. In one-on-one coaching, all the more it's very, very important because it's between two individuals. So, gaining the trust is paramount for the success of that coaching element. What is also important is partnering with the person, understanding from where he is coming from and not introducing your own biases or not wanting your own success or your own agenda to be driven is also the key to be having a successful one-on-one conversations. So just holding the space for the coachee to talk about his own vulnerabilities, talk about his own challenges will help us take this coaching to the next level.